every adult, every nation. So much welcome to tune in to the Divine Youngsters podcast.
Indeed, that is true. Dear listener, welcome to TDYP, the hottest Christian life podcast in the country right now. Father's Day today, but because we are covering a very important topic that we had started with Mage Golsile Twala. Shout out to you, Mage. Thank you so much for starting that topic with us on the importance of financial literacy. Today we are doing a part 2 of that topic.
A big shout out to Mage Mdlulu. Thank you so much, Mage, for coming here last week and blessing us with your experiences and your knowledge based on the topic which was at hand. Yes, dear listener, we are tackling on, or rather we are diving into another beautiful, impactful topic, which is the importance of financial literacy. So make sure that you get your notepad, your notebook, your pen, you invite your friends, to join in as well, because we are about to learn. We're about to be inspired. We're about to, our lives are about to be changed. That's the goal. We have our highly esteemed guest with us, who is here also to share her experiences and her knowledge based on the topic at hand. She is an award-winning entrepreneur and a qualified nurse, but she is here to tell us more about herself. Let me just allow her to introduce herself even better. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi sis, thank you so much for having me. Hi listeners at home, I am so honored to be here.
Very, very well. So actually, we are the ones who are very honored to have you, and the listener at home. Can you just enlighten us? Tell us where do you come from, who you are, and what do you currently do?
Thank you so much. Hi listener, hi young person. I believe today I'm addressing young people on this podcast. Hi listeners at home. My name is Busisiwe Lukele. Most people call me Sbusi. I am Mrs. Lamini. I come from a very small village called Emapundini in northern Hereford. That's where I come from. But I grew up in Peaks Peak because that's where my mom worked. And now I'm based in Manzini.
Okay. Amazing. Also, I am actually also interested to know about your Christian journey. If you're a Christian, when did you have an encounter with the Lord Jesus?
Yeah. The hardest question to answer is that one.
Yes, I know, right?
Especially if you're someone that grew up in church. Because the minute you open your eyes, you already found Jesus in the house. So you can't really. But I guess Christianity is always a personal journey. So at some point, you still need to choose Jesus for yourself. It stops being your mom's Jesus and becomes your Jesus. So I've known Christ my entire life. I come from the Assemblies of God. That's where I grew up. That's where I was groomed. Growing up. That's where we're still serving even now. When I got married, my husband was like, "Oh, okay, I still love your church. Let's continue there." So that's where I'm based. But my relationship with Christ is a very personal one, more than a religious one.
Okay.
Yes, I have a very personal journey. I believe even when I do go to church or not go to church, I still believe that it is my responsibility to maintain the relationship with God. Something that I do almost every day. I have practices that ground me in my faith. If you know me and you've been following me, you know that I am a 5 a.m. girly, so I start my day with a Joel Austin podcast, and that has just been a practice that, has helped me to remain rooted, especially as someone who's into entrepreneurship. You wake up, there's already things that you're stressed about, so that's one of the practices that I have, just listening to something inspirational. But also my Christianity has also even grounded me in terms of my entrepreneurship principles. I subscribe a lot to business that is led by faith, you know. So in everything that I do, the people that I work with, the way I lead, I always lead from a Christ-centered approach. And I think that was influenced a lot by my upbringing, you know, how I grew up. So yeah, that is, I don't know if I've answered your question, but yeah, that is it. Yes, I do go to church. Even though I'm not very consistent, sometimes because of my schedule, and sometimes because, you know, me and my husband really have a very crazy schedule, you know, so you find that we only have Sunday to ourselves, and some days we use that as a family day, you know, and yeah, otherwise I am a believer, and I used to listen to VOC a lot when
And then what happened? What happened?
I just guess things changed. Radio was no longer, you know, what it was.
understand.
But growing up,
Yeah.
but not VOC2, like the original.
Yes, I know most people
Yeah.
actually. I understand. I love the fact that you have pointed out that at some point the Lord Jesus doesn't have to be your mom's Jesus, your
Yeah.
dad's Jesus.
Yeah.
It has to be a personal thing for you. I love that. Before we even get into that question, the topic today, I understand that you are a qualified nurse. And you're an entrepreneur, so I'd love to know if you can enlighten us. When or how did you transition into entrepreneurship after studying nursing?
Yeah.
And then why did you choose entrepreneurship? Did it even choose you, or it chose you?
Yeah.
I don't know. If you can just give us a clue there. How did you venture into entrepreneurship?
Okay. So I think the first time I went into hospital, I knew that this is not my place.
After studying, like
It must have been no, because when you're in nursing school, you do practicals, you know, as you go. So the first time I was in first year, I think, the first time we went into a ward, it traumatized me, and I knew that, okay, this is not my place. But I just didn't know what else, you know, I was going to do, because I was grateful that I'd gotten scholarship and I was, you know, admitted at the University of Eswatini, Swaziland at that time. But, you know, I just knew in that moment that I don't think this is my place, you know. But I persevered and I continued. For the sake of, and also making my parents proud. You know, I'm a firstborn at home, so it's important for me to set the pace, you know, for my siblings. So, yeah, I knew that, no, this is not where I want to be. But I didn't know much, you know, which is something that I talk to my kids about now, to say, you know, now we're living in the information era. By the time you finish your Form 5, you should at least know what you want to do. Because Tina, we didn't know. Tina, we just went through. And if you ask me how I got into nursing, my teachers used to say, oh, she's a bright child. She's going to be a doctor. You know, so I thought, okay, there's no medical institution in Swaziland. Let me go to nursing. You know, at some point I thought somewhere along the line it was going to come together. But now I also know that even medicine is not my thing. You know, so yeah, I knew when I was in first year, I continued. But what I think laid the foundation for me, which is something that I want young people to note, is that while in university, I was very active. Like, I was always networking, always, you know, my friend and I at the time started writing for the newspaper. It was called The Female Voice. We used to express our views on women empowerment, feminism. I was a radical feminist. You know, so we used to express our views, you know, on abuse, all those things. And we got into women's spaces, you know. So I started to network while I was still in university, you know. So after university, I landed my first job even before graduating. And I think part of that could be attributed to my confidence, but also just, you know, being around people, you know. So then when I went into nursing, I was so happy to land that job. It was paying well. But 2 years, 3 months in, I lost my job. Because of a contract that was not renewed, you know. So then now I had no option. Like, there was nothing. I remember when they served me with that letter, I was thinking, should I go back to Hereford? But I asked myself, to do what back home? At that time, I didn't even have a house. You know, I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. You know, but I had started selling in the office. I used to sell breakfast, muffins, sandwiches, and all those things, you know. And then I got into clothes. So, you know, I was already out and about. I was already using my Facebook to promote myself and all those things, you know. So, yeah, I had just met my husband, you know. So, we decided, okay, let's go into selling clothes full time, you know. So, then we started to do trips to Pretoria and Joburg, you know, every week and stuff. And then, in 2019, because I lost my job end of 2018, the whole of 2019 was me just figuring myself what to do and all those things, you know. And I remember asking that, okay, maybe let me just take a makeup qualification. So I went in and did a makeup course with one of the best makeup artists in the country. At that time, she was still in Swaziland, Kosi. You know, so then, that was just me being resourceful and thinking outside my qualification, you know. So, we did that, and I was doing well, really. Even thinking about it, I'm like, okay, I just think I'm diligent. Whenever I do something, I go all out, you know. So, sometimes they say you make up in you know, in consistency what you lack in skill. You know, just if you keep repeating and doing things with your whole heart, even if you're not skilled, you know, you're going to be chosen and going to be the first one, you know. So I remember that I even won a makeup hamper from her, and she even selected me to work alongside her. We went to Bushfire, you know, Luchu Festival, you know, because she was just like, oh my goodness, shame when she does something, she, you know, she goes all out, you know. But then my makeup career was very short-lived. I just guess it was time up, I don't know, but it helped me to land my next opportunity, which was selling of products. That's when I got into product distribution. I sold a skincare product for some lady. She was based in Joburg. She wanted skincare consultants. I sold the product. I became the top sales consultant. You know, then COVID hit. That opportunity was lost, and then I went into a network marketing company selling perfumes and cosmetics. So I really feel like when people ask, how do you know, or how do I know if I should go into business? You never know. And you never know what business you'll go into, because one thing leads to another if you always take the first step, you know. So then recently I went into a health and wellness global business that I'm part of. Otherwise, I think from the muffins to the makeup to the clothes to the perfumes to where I am, it has always just been me believing that I am born for a purpose that is bigger than myself, and it has never really been about survival, because if we talk survival, I'd probably be back at work.
Imagine doing something which you knew years ago that this wasn't your place. Just for the sake of paying the bills. I love that, actually. I love that, because I believe that there are many young people who are listening right now and they feel like, you know what, I am also doing this course, but I know very well this is not for me. And they are clueless. What's the next step? What should I do? So I love the flexibility in you, the spirit of hustling, you know, taking things positively. You're saying, as much as this is not for me, but I'm going to do something, you know, I'm going to do something about my life. And the consistency as well. You know, if you just gave up, like, hey, you know what, I'm challenged, you know, you wouldn't have discovered this other potential in you. I love it.
That's true. For me, I think, so, you know, they say sometimes you have to taste the bad so that when the good comes, you know, like, you know, that this is not bad, this is good. You know, so I think that's what happened with you. You had to go through the elementary of the, you know, the channels we know, like the primary, right, the education, and then you get a job, and when you saw that the reality of it, and you saw that this can't be my reality forever, you know, it made you hunger for the entrepreneurial side of things, and that is what caused you to flourish, you know. And I love how you took fields that are not even related to medicine, you know, because most people are like, maybe why didn't you start, you know, on the selling, I mean, you started with food, like, you know, culinary and nursing.
But there's a story there. Why I got into food first.
Okay.
Can I share?
No, please.
Okay, so growing up, up, I must have been in Form 2 or 3 when my mom started selling a mafeti.
Okay.
Yeah, so my mom used to be a secretary in one of the biggest, most, prestigious schools in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So that's where, I grew up and stuff. So she was a secretary.
Okay.
And I think, thinking about it now, and that I have my own kids, I think things must have been tough when she went there.
Yes.
Now that I have kids, I'm like, okay, it must have been tough. So she started selling a mafeti with potato chips, scoopers, all those things.
Yeah.
And we were very much involved in the production. I must say it must have been a factory like, because it was a very, very big business. Thinking about it now, you know. So she'd never sleep. Like, she'd sleep really late, maybe around 11, and then wake up at 3, So that is our childhood. That is how we grew up.
Okay.
But we've never lacked, even when it was time for school trips. She made sure that we've always felt like, things are going well, even though they were not, So that is what I knew as a business. Like, I knew that people need to eat, and
exactly.
Yeah, I just knew that if you cook, people will buy, not because they plan to
they
buy.
need
People
to.
are always
They
hungry,
need to eat.
Yeah, so that's the very first business that I
Thought of.
Yeah, that I thought of, and that's where I started. And how it started, which I think is going to kickstart the conversation for today, is that I started to listen to YouTube videos. At that time, Facebook, not YouTube at the time, it was Facebook. And I met a lady called Nicolette Mashile.
Okay.
So she was talking about financial literacy. I think I was 25 or so. And she was always talking about, when you're 25, you need to have your financial life together. Have an emergency fund, 7 income streams. So I was like, this was like the first time I was hearing about multiple income streams, side hustles, emergency funds, credit cards, and all those things. Remember, now I think I was a year into employment, and I had already made all the blunders that she was talking about. I had an overdraft already. I had a credit card. I had, so it was an interesting conversation. And every time I shared in the office, most people would say, I wish I had this when I was younger. And then I took advantage of that, because it's like, I'm the youngest in the office. If all these people are saying, I wish I had this when I was younger, that means I need to do something about it. At that time, I was not married. I had no child. And, I could literally just change my life if and when I wanted, Then we discussed in the office, and we're like, okay, tomorrow or next week, let's all come back with business ideas, And then the following week, I was like, I'm starting a mobile breakfast business, And people were just like, hi, boss, was already, But one of the traits that the Lord gave me is just jumping into something.
Yes.
I'm that kind of person. So I started with muffins and stuff. Tell you what, people that ate my breakfast then, I'm sure they were just supporting the energy, the enthusiasm. I don't think I'm the best cook. Even my husband is a better cook than me. So I used to do easy mix, this premix. So I used to do easy mix. Just my sandwiches here and there.
So it was more of the presentation.
So I've never really sat down to have a business plan and whatnot. No, I start with what I have, I do it, and I think that has always just been something that has kept me in entrepreneurship. Just being someone who goes in without really over analyzing things. And that is how then I got into the breakfast business.
Cool. Which is great. Still stepping out of your comfort zone and just taking the challenge. So young people, I hope we are getting this. Education is a key to success. It's not the key to success.
I think I love the kind of personality, that the type of people who just don't even have to think twice or thrice about something. They just jump into it. I admire those. I admire such people, because I am definitely the opposite of that. I have to think about something before I jump in. So I always admire those people. Well, the topic today are the importance of financial literacy. I don't know, what do you understand, about financial literacy? If you can just enlighten the listener, what do you understand about the topic?
Okay. Financial literacy, I believe, is just understanding money, understanding how to handle it, how to use it, and how to make it work for you. Yeah. And I believe that's something that I learned very late. And even today, I still have to heal from money traumas, because growing up, I don't remember my mom saying nice things about money, or my dad. Whenever money was discussed, it was always, yo, sitawubona bam, yo, uhaya hawukela, yo, you know, that kind of thing. So money was always a taboo subject, which I believe even us today, even though we're in the information age, we are still scared. We tiptoe around the subject of money. When we talk to our kids, when we talk about money, there's trauma. We always talk about money and then stress. Even when we do something for our kids, we make them feel bad for it. Like, "Loko ka sengikuthengele amateki, angifuni kuphenza uhluphe," you know, or ngubhadalele trip noma ngibhadale rent, you know, like,
ever come back to me.
Yeah, so it's something that I think if I could, it could be taught in schools. Yeah,
it's true.
I started to understand and learn about money, as I say, just by plugging into creators or platforms that other creators and champions around financial literacy had started. And since then, financial literacy has been an ongoing thing for me to educate myself on money. Yeah.
Which is amazing. Financial literacy is required. In fact, I think it was my spiritual father. He once taught us that financial literacy was not designed to be taught in schools. It was designed to be taught at home.
Yeah.
Because the school system, you know, as we know it, was not created to make us rich. It was created to make us obedient employees. You know,
actually,
so
that's the truth.
So at home is where children should actually receive more financial literacy education than when they go out there. And I think that's where the saying charity begins at home really came through. You know, now that I think about it, maybe they were trying to tell us a riddle that, you know, teach your kids about money at home. Parents who are listening, you know, how you talk about money in front of your kids, very important, because they're catching it on. You know, even like how you trust them with money, right? That little pocket money you give them, observe how they use it, you know, and you don't have to maybe put them into a class like, okay guys, we're sitting down, we're writing this, you know, the little things, how you teach them, how did you spend that money? Are you sure you were, you know, you were satisfied with that decision? You know, let them see, let them get a picture of what money really is about before they even step into the corporate world.
Exactly. And also demonstrate, you know, like how Smoothie have mentioned that her mom would multitask, you know, as a secretary, and also she would sell, and that's where she got it. That's where she learned, because, you know, as a woman, you gotta multitask,
come on.
you know, and have several streams of income, you know, which is something that we definitely have to learn at home. Because we, like, you know, now that you've mentioned it, Lauren, like, I'm like, this is true. Like, the school system did not even teach us to business.
True.
You know, it gave you that mindset to you know,
exactly.
They have knowledge. So
I always tell my kids, sorry to interject, I always tell my kids that, and parents, to say, right now, the school system is preparing you for a world that no longer exists.
True.
It no longer exists, you know. So I believe that if the conversation is supposed to be had, it should be had at home. And for me, that is why I believe modeling the world that they're going into is better than talking about it. You know, because I wouldn't expect a teacher who's struggling to make ends meet to teach about financial literacy. You know, you know, sometimes it's you saying less, you do more. If your kids see you, they will know that, you know, we're living in a new world, you know, that they are being prepared for.
No, that's deep. That's so deep. It brings me then to my first question for the show. For you, Sister Spoosie. Do you think there's a gap between Africa and various parts of the world when it comes to financial literacy? And if so, why do you think that is?
Let me just think about it. Well, I do have exposure,
Yes.
but I've only been to a few countries.
Okay.
I have noticed that in Africa we are taught to work.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We are not taught to survive outside the employer.
Okay. Okay.
So that's why our parents are very frustrated when you say you want to go into business, because what are you talking
Yes,
about?
yes.
Even the businesses that we're doing, when you look at, I always just talk to my kids and say, my father-in-law has a business, I have a business, my husband has a business, my mom has a business. But when you look at how we're doing these businesses, we're all isolated. Everybody's doing their own business. We are
Okay,
not thinking
okay.
about how can we bring this together to
yeah,
create
right.
generational
on,
wealth.
come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, so just my observation has been that, especially when you look at the Asians and all those
Yes,
people,
yes.
you will realize that they are big on creating generational wealth,
yes,
and that is not
yes.
just through trust and all those things, even through skills, the skills they pass
Yes,
on.
that's right.
When like you go to their shop, you will find their kids there, they're
Yes.
hands on, they trust their children. And I think that has taught me that we need to have more conversations. I don't know, but when I started this journey, I realized that we need to unlearn first before we learn.
Come on.
Because it's hard to
Yeah.
teach someone on if they think what they know is enough.
Yes, true.
So she said education is another key or something like that.
Yeah.
I believe in self-education more than academic
Systematic
education.
education,
Yeah.
yeah.
So one of the things that I've done, since the year 2020 when I went full-time into entrepreneurship was to start buying books.
Okay.
Books on financial literacy, books on mindset, leadership, and all those things. And I would just always say it, to people that say, oh, please, I want to borrow your book and all those things, that my books are my biggest treasure. Even when I'm gone, my kids will always go to my library and remember that they were, even if they're not interested now, but they will find that, and it's wealth,
Yeah.
because I'm teaching them that learning can actually happen outside the classroom, yeah. So I feel the gap is in us not embracing and learning to relearn,
Okay,
the church, I think, is trying, but the time we spend in church is very, yeah. So I feel for us to embrace financial education, it must be something that we as parents first realize that we need to unlearn what we knew about money, what we knew about work, purpose, and all those things, and start to teach at home and unlearn, so that we can be able to teach our kids new things that are relevant in this era that we're in.
That's deep. Thank you so much, sister, for saying those words, because honestly, even when you look at it, I love the example we gave of the Asians.
Yeah.
They trust their children, and they will train them from a very, very young age.
Yeah.
But with us Africans, ever since we were children, every time money is being mentioned, oh, kids, go out, like no one wants to hear our ideas.
Yeah.
No one wants to say, oh, okay, how much have you been saving? What are your plans? Even when we would talk about what we want to be when we grow up, and someone says, a child in the classroom maybe says, I want to be a businessman. Everyone's like, how? What does that mean? What kind of a business? But you haven't even heard, the ideas that he or she has. We had those kids in the classroom. Maybe they're not doing well in the books, but they would come and sell sweets, and all the sweets would finish, and they would go home with their money. They sell chocolates and all of that stuff, and you're like, wow. This kid has guts, and then there's you, and then maybe now we fast forward 20 years from now, that same kid who was selling sweets is now running, the big shops and all that.
So true.
Exactly, and then the shops that we, the educated ones, are buying from. You see that kind of thing. So honestly, we really need to unlearn as Africans, because even when you look at it in the Western world, there's so many academies, these business academies, money academies, where they send these high scholars and these varsity students to go and learn. By the time they're out of varsity, they already have like 2-3 businesses, right?
Yeah.
They're trading, online trading, forex and whatnot. They understand those dynamics. And then we've got a lot of African young people leaving varsity only to be jobless, only to not have a way to make income, or look at the ways to make income that are available now and say they're too difficult, they're too expensive, yet they're not. So honestly, young people of Africa, I hope we are hearing this, to say that it's not like the Westerners or the Asians or the other people from the different continents are better than us. No, it's just because they've adapted a certain system that operates for them that we are refusing to adapt to work for ourselves.
Exactly, dear Liz. I feel like this, as you guys have mentioned, that there's just a lot of unlearning to happen, because if you look at it, I feel like many young African people, they are learned, they are very educated. It's just that they lack the flexibility, if you look at countries like China, after so long, they've only realized now that they need to learn English language, but they are so developed economically,
True,
so we will unpack a lot about this topic, dear listener, after this beautiful song from Muso Worship and Yanga Sobetwa, Ebenezer.
Are doing well, like people are testifying and saying the products
are very good. Network marketing products are good, but generally network marketing products are not like the general products you'll find in the stores. They're good, but our business is reputable because it has been around for 47 years.
That's
so
amazing.
it's just a thing of people know it. It's kind of like now we are just bringing it back in the TikTok era, social media era,
it's
and all
been
those
there,
things. It's been there,
That's good. I love to hear that.
Okay, I think how are your questions going?
I'm level 2 on my side.
Our time was what? 2:30.
2, 4.
Oh, okay.
Yo, that's loud.
So I can talk. Okay.
I think then I will get into what mistakes do you think young people make?
Okay, in terms of handling money?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's going to be my question. Please let us in.
Who sang the song Ebenezer? I mean,
I always get it wrong.
Muso Worship, ne?
Yes.
And who?
Yanga Sobetwa.
She's younger. What now? She's married, eh?
Oh yeah, she's not a Sobetwa now. She's married.
She's
younger. Koza.
Yeah, she's younger.
But with this song, she was still Sobetwa.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I love it so much.
Younger Sobetwa Koza. Okay.
All right, so we're back.
I'll cut it because
16 minutes after the hour of 3 p.m. on your favorite Christian contemporary radio station, Musa Worship, together with the young Asobeta Koza, giving us Ebenezer. Yes, Ebenezer, the Lord has been our help. He has led us thus far on TDYP, the Divine Youngsters Podcast, 100% Dynamic Christian Youthful Living, where we're talking the importance of financial literacy, part 2, with Sis Boosie.
Yes, our highly esteemed.
So yeah, we've covered quite a lot, her background, how she got into entrepreneurship, and of course the trajectory between Africa and the other continents when it comes to financial literacy.
Definitely, dear listener. And we still have our highly esteemed guest with us. Very honored, dear listener. You and I are very honored. And, we always do the best for you. We always go out there to get you the best, the best of the best. So, getting into the next part of the topic, what do you think the common mistakes that many young people make, in terms of handling their finances?
Okay. Thank you for welcoming me again and the second segment, and thank you for listening at home. All right, young people make a lot of mistakes, but I think the one mistake we young people, myself included, make when it comes to financial literacy or handling money is thinking we have time. when I went into business, my mom was very scared for me. And I remember one time going to deliver. At that time I was selling clothes, so I went to my former high school where she was, working to deliver clothes to some clients of mine. And I remember her calling me aside and saying, "Yo, sissy, this is not you. This is this is not your life." Her actual words, that's what she said. And I understand her because I was a bright student, was in the top 15, Form 5, Form 3.
Goodness.
I was always just the cream of the cream in the school. And now I'm coming back to the same school to sell clothes. And for her, if I was coming back as a doctor or something, she was going to be proud to take me to every stuff. But now, Pete Konzekaya with clothes and saying I'm selling. So that was not sitting well with her. It didn't sit well with her. And that's when she told me, "No, sister, I think you need to think again. Yes, you lost your job, but you need to think, is this your life?" But thinking about it now, I've been out of employment for 7 years. This is my 7th year.
Come on.
I would never trade the 7 years for anything, because in the 7 years I've learned so much about money. I've lost so much, I've gained so much, I've built a brand. I have learned how social media can be a tool for developing yourself and your career and all those things. So when I left nursing, people would ask, "So you think the money is there's more money in business?" Because people think money is money. They think money is the actual, yet money is skills, yet money is time, yet money is lessons, yet money is, self-confidence. When you're confident, you can make more money. When you've made when you've handled money before, you will know that 80,000 is not a lot of money because you handled it before, So leaving employment and getting my payout and blowing it and starting over and going into business and handling money, I think that is the biggest lesson that young people need to learn at a very early age. Money is time, and the sooner you make the mistakes, the better, because you'll recover from the mistakes and you'll come back again. A lot of people don't think about that. They go a very, very long journey with their careers, and then when it's retirement time and they get their money, they are shocked that money is nothing, yet money was time. So for me, yes, time is money, isn't that what they say?
Exactly.
So true. Until you learn how to turn your time into money.
Come on.
I don't think there's any other mistake you can make. So in that career, in that marriage, in that whatever that you're doing, it could just be costing you money.
That's deep, dear listener. Time is truly money, because I love when you said skill is money, confidence is money. Because the truth is, you can have all the education in the world, but if you're not able to package it in a certain way, someone was asking me that, hey, with a law degree, if for some reason maybe you won't go to court, what are you going to do with it? And I told them, I said, you don't understand the era we're living in now. With the same degree, I can become a legal podcaster, just talking all things law, streaming and making it. And
because you're confident.
Exactly. So it's about you channeling that skill. We're not bashing education. We love education. It's a foundation. It's one of the keys of success, as we mentioned before. But now, in the age that we're living in, it has never been more pivotal, more important for you as a young person to channel that education into something that can be vitalized into your multiple streams of income. Channeling your hobbies into multiple streams of income. Growing up, we used to know that, writing stories would do that for fun. We have our diaries and our songbooks and all that stuff we used to do. But now you can actually write stories online and make money from it. So
people do actually.
Exactly.
That's something that's not practical. It's
people are doing it.
We're in the creator economy now.
Exactly.
If you can't create, you'll be very much obsolete, irrelevant.
You really be left out.
Yeah.
The simplest things like voiceovers. We never thought that your voice can be
Yes.
currency
Yeah.
and you can actually,
You
turn
can sell.
it into a money-making scheme for you.
Yeah, with just that smartphone, you don't even need this.
Thank you. Thank
To
you.
start, you need just your phone
Just
and
your
your
phone
confidence.
and your
And
confidence.
confidence.
So God, in His wisdom, He deposited in us what we need to actually make enough, and more than enough even, to create generational wealth. So honestly, being financially literate is very important. And what I love about what you said, Sissy, also when you said we must start early, like start making the mistakes early.
Yes.
That one is deep because we actually try to avoid the mistakes by all means. We're like, oh no, if I lose that 80,000, I'm doomed.
I think it's the education system.
Yes.
The education system says don't fail.
Come on.
If you fail, the system. There's
Yeah.
even what discontinue.
Yes.
Because
So true.
yeah, but
Repeat
in
all
the
that.
real world, it's all about failing,
Come on.
failing
Yes.
forward.
Come on.
True.
Yeah. So one of the books I heard you talk about the not the brightest child starting a business and things like that. One of the books that challenged me so much when I started to invest in my financial education was by Robert Kiyosaki. It's I've forgotten the name of the book.
How C students.
Yeah, but it has
apply
that
something like
how
that.
A students work for
For
C
C
students,
students, yes,
and
yes.
knowing that I was an A student at school, it challenged me so much to say I don't want to work for a C student.
Come on now.
I don't want to be
Because it's
employed.
possible.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
happening.
want to be
It's actually
employed by a
happening
C
right now.
student, And why do A students end up working for C students?
Ish.
Because A students think they know.
Come on.
So they don't have to learn.
True. And
were
they're afraid
told
to
you have
fail.
to
Yes,
Yeah.
and the system is for them because it says do well in school, you'll get a job. So the system favors them.
Okay.
Yet students need to think about ways of survival outside
come
range
on,
because they
come
didn't
on,
do well in
come on.
school. So yeah, that's one of the things. And that's when I told myself that if I have to bake muffins and do it, I'll do it. If I have to sell chicken dust, I'll do it. By the way, I did all those things, guys. I sold chicken dust. Because it's just like I don't want what I know to block me from my dream life. So I think what blocks a lot of people is entitlement, because they think I did well in school, I have 2 degrees, so there must be space for me at VOCFM. Yet VOCFM, when they're looking for someone, maybe a broadcaster, they'll just go online and look at this one who already has a podcast and like,
Yes,
because
exactly.
now,
Experience,
because you can't gamble now. We hire based on what is going to work for us, not based on the qualification.
That's right.
And
the education gave us too much comfortability. Because I'm a graduate, I'm now comfortable. Yet the truth is, we shouldn't be comfortable. We should actually it should give us more ounce to push more and say, oh, okay, yes, I have the qualification, but what else? What else am I bringing on the table outside of my qualification?
Yeah, because if you were 40, I think in my class we were 45 or something. That year when we graduated, there were 45 nurses. And now, tell me, do you think there's 45 spaces in the hospital?
Oh my goodness.
Definitely not, So now you ask yourself, how are they going to pick you? How I got my job, it's because they knew my articles, they'd seen me in women, mobilizing for women's issues. And they're like, oh, okay. And even after, there was a time when we failed because of doing. During that year, I volunteered to work, at some local clinic, and that's when I applied, they already wanted experience that I had because I was volunteering. So it's not enough to say I have the degree, because everybody does actually these days.
So true.
I think that's another reason why you find a lot of graduates being hit by depression nowadays.
And even suicide.
Because they're unemployed and they're thinking, I was once this A student, I wasted all of this time. Now they can't even think, okay, let me venture into something else. Let me try entrepreneurship. Let me try this and that. In the interest of time, my question would be, I think you've already touched on the tips that I'm going to ask, because you've also touched on consistency, which has worked for you. Building a brand, starting a business, maintaining that brand is not easy, especially if you're a young person, because you also have other interests. You meet your husband, you want to venture into love, you want this and that, but also you have a brand to maintain, you have a business to maintain. So what tips can you give to young people which have worked for you? You've mentioned consistency as a first, and what other tips can you give?
Okay, since I started working online, I saw the online space as my office, like my workplace.
Yeah.
So what I see people doing now is that they are irresponsible with social media. Like, I'll post whatever I want to post. I'll say whatever I want to say online, and it's okay for you to do that, but you need to realize that your employer is online, your customer is online, that podcast that wants you to come as a guest is online. So I learned about personal branding early on in my journey. And maybe just to give a definition to someone that's like, okay, what is a personal brand? A personal brand is what people are saying about you.
Yes.
In just simple terms, the feeling about you, what they're saying about you. And a personal brand is something to be protected. You build your brand with intention. It just doesn't happen. The conversations you participate in, the things you do, the way you make people feel on and offline, by the way, not just online. So what a personal brand is in 2025, it's a currency. It's what is going to give you opportunities. People will be like, I also joined the same business, but people are you can also have a silent brand and still that's not good. I know people that say like social media it's okay until nobody knows you for any opportunity. So social media can open opportunities for you. It can also so what I've seen in my career is just, if you are consistent with building a brand and making sure that people, you stay top of mind, man. I always say, whatever you're doing, if you are in the podcasting space, Nabati podcast, I should think Laurie. If Bati podcast, I don't think about you, you still have to work. So Mina, in my space, which is network marketing industry, I want you to say network marketing in Sbusi. Do you understand? Because it must be something that impacts the people that, it must be impact beyond your immediate customers and clients. It must be impact, so that is what has helped me. And then with a personal brand, you are able now to create multiple income streams. Because what young people do is that I want to sell clothes and sell Forever Living and sell t-shirts and sell weaves and do this, and how multiple income streams are created. I think they come from you as the stem, and then everything else. And they don't always have to be active, that I'm running and selling shoes, and then I'm running to sell earrings, and then I'm selling burgers, and then, you can just diversify your offerings from brand you know. So once you build yourself, you can then speak for a living while you sell your network marketing product, while you maybe write a book and sell a book. Do you understand? So those are now branches within your brand. So another way now to protect your brand is to not be all over the place. Because if I'm distributing 5 network marketing products, to the person who's looking at me, they don't think I am hustling. They think I am confused. And now confusion attracts no one. Because they don't know what to come to me for. Because I'm all over the place. So that's the first thing. Just focus. And focus over time. Literally, you can't say you've done something for 6 months and it's not working. That's how it works, you know. Yeah, I was with my previous company for 4 years, I think 4 or 5 years, you know. So you build your brand. Even today, people still, when they talk to me, they talk about it because, you know, that's how long I've been with it, you know. The second thing is that now think about ways of diversifying your offerings. You know, now that comes from learning, you know, start practicing public speaking so that you can, because what kind of a leader are you going to be if you can't speak, if you can't, you know. Yeah, so that's the second thing. Speaking can be another stream of income, you know. Writing can be another stream of income, you know, while you excel within what you're doing. So chasing different hustles leads you to nothing really, because, you know, they say, what? I don't know this thing about a rabbit chasing a lot of things and catching none. It's so true. And getting mentors early on is something that has helped me, because people don't want to be taught. I know what I'm doing, you know. We're trying to survive, but also hustling from survival still, you know, creates confusion for your brand.
Wow.
Powerful.
Yeah, the things we're receiving here. You're reminding me of what our brother Ngobi Tabete, shout out to him, and what he had shared about personal branding, because you know he had come here to teach us on the importance of creating a brand. And he said something. He said that Ngobi Tabete, the MC, is not Ngobi Tabete, the brand. He said Ngobi the MC works for Ngobi the brand.
Oh, awesome.
So he was like, you must always know how to differentiate from that, because once you're able to do that, you'll be able to treat the brand with respect. Exactly. So what you've been saying is reminding me of that, because you're saying, you know, you are the stem, right? So Lorraine the brand has to be the stem, and then from Lorraine the brand will spring up all these other things. I mean, not to quote anyone secular, but I think we saw that with the musician Rihanna when she built Fenty Beauty, right? Exactly. She started as a music artist and a dancer and whatever. Then they started branching out into modeling. Before you know it, she's branching out now into makeup. Only when she got into the makeup industry is when she achieved $1 billion, you know, status. So it's to say to you, dear listener, that, you know, if the people in the world are doing it, what more as children of God? You know, what can we achieve if we could use? Because the principles are the same. They don't do this thing of saying, "Oh, are you a Christian or not?"
In fact, they are applying the Christian principles more than Christian.
Thank you, literally, because the Bible says everything good comes from God. So the mere fact that they are making that kind of, you know, like they're having those kind of results, it means that the ability or the knowledge to make wealth came from God. But then now, of course, it comes down to who it's being applied to, or how it's being applied. So as a young Christian who's listening right now and watching, I hope, dear listener, you're catching what she was saying here, because the people in the world are using the same principle. You are the brand, you are the stem, and from the stem must branch out, you know, multiple streams of income based on your interests, based on your strengths, based on, you know, your past experience, based on the knowledge you already have or you acquired in school, you know, based on your network, your contacts, all of those things. They must contribute, you know, to building that, because that's the only way, really, you're gonna achieve multiple stream status.
And maybe just to come back to today's conversation, we can't be talking financial literacy without income. You know, like
so true.
There has to be money involved. You know, so you just need to sit down and audit your brand to say, what can Lorraine offer to the world? You know, and it's never too late to build a brand. Building a brand takes time, you know, but once your brand starts working for you, it's like, you know, when people look at it, they're like, how is she always booked and busy? How is she doing this and that? No, it's because of the foundation. So the mistake that people make is wanting the money first. Like, they're just rushing to the money. They just want to buy that car and all those things, you know. Build yourself, and then all these offerings will come over time. And some of these things will now even be working in your sleep. Like, I just recently published some book, an industry book, for network marketing. And the other day I was just opening my laptop, I'm like, oh, I have a sale. It's something that just people go on a link and they buy. And, that's me now providing mentorship through a book, which is another tool. And I didn't even have to worry about who's going to buy it. Most of the people that bought it are not even in Eswatini. They are just in the industry, but they trust me because of building a brand over the years, So if you cannot think about your income in the next 5 years based on the fact that you're just focusing on chasing money now, maybe it's time for you to start working on your personal brand. And it's never too late. When I started to reinvent myself and change, my social media presence, how I was showing up, it was a mess. I was saying all sorts of things on social media. I was always fighting. I would, but I came back to the same platform, Facebook, and I started to be intentional about what I was posting. And I don't say everything, and I don't comment about everything. I don't fight everyone because some of the people that are saying mean things, they have nothing to lose. I have built a brand,
Exactly.
So I started to be very, very cautious about what I was doing online, and most of what I was doing online was impact. What I was putting out there was supposed to reach someone who was going to be impacted by it positively, and that is where we start, because social media is where we gather literally every minute. We're going on social media to put out our views, and when people are looking for you, they're looking for you online, so whenever I mentor people around personal branding, I just say, stop what you're doing, take your phone and Google yourself. If you don't like what you see, or there's nothing that comes up, then it means you need to be intentional about creating a personal brand, because but something will come up. Definitely something will come up, and when that thing comes up and you don't like it, now it's time for you to change. It could just be as simple as changing your name. Why are you Lorraine Lady Styles Rihanna? Change and call yourself Lorraine. Just like I'm Sbusi Lukele everywhere, because I have nothing to hide. And that is how opportunities have found me, through just being honest about who I am.
Talk about maintaining and respecting your brand. I think personal branding, the topic is a hot topic nowadays.
Especially for another day.
Especially for entrepreneurs, it requires a lot of discipline to maintain that brand, and understand, like Ngobi said, and understand that you have to report to the brand. You abide by the rules, by the ethics. If Phaphilz, the brand, does not allow you to be seen somewhere around bushfire or something, you have to listen. Phaphilz, the brand, is not onto that. So yes, I think dear listener, we'll be concluding the show after this beautiful track from Terrian. I stayed on him. Angayibona le ngoma
ehon VOC.
No, actually ngikhohliwe ukuthi and I
and
decided to choose my own. I actually forgot.
Maybe you can play just the ending.
Let me choose my favorite.
It's the last one.
Please don't tell me you don't know the song, because what do you mean? What do you mean? Common mistakes many people make with money, tips to start and sustain a business even though it's tough. Well, did we talk about that?
No, I think those are the closing.
Practical steps to control your finances.
What? I'll cut my... Send you my questions, Linda. About do you still have questions?
Oh, okay. Now I have two.
You said two. You didn't ask the two.
Yes.
I have. You're my advisor. It's not a question. It's a request.
It's the closing remarks. Me, I'm left with two.
Because apparently, so with the skirts, you're up to 15 minutes.
Yo, this thing is hazarding. Cabanga kana kamnandi ngoma.
That's good. I don't know. We normally don't have this challenge in course. Yes, to check with your age.
It's the devil messing with
Hey,
me. Yes,
hey,
the devil.
Tyron.
It's a nice song, but I still want my old school.
It was the old school.
Yes, old school will never.
Yes, that's true.
When I'm designing a Happy Father's Day digital card for my dad-in-law because I didn't say it. And it says Eliashara Lam. But it will take us time. What's it straight? What's it as to make money?
So Tyrion giving us a state on him right here on VOC2 FM. And this is the last segment of the Divine Youngsters podcast. We are discussing the importance of financial literacy. If you've missed the show, do remember to catch the repeat next week on Saturday from 2 p.m. right here on VOC2 FM. On a lovely and special Father's Day. It's a good thing we are discussing financial literacy on Father's Day. You know, we're speaking to the heads of the family. They need to be informed on such things, you know, as the herders that are leading families, you know, they need to be informed about financial literacy as well.
Indeed, 16 minutes to the hour of 4 p.m. Dear listener, we're continuing on the last part of this interview. We have been having such a lovely time with Sis Busi. Maybe we should keep her for
just a little while. Just a while.
She has that radio voice.
No, she does actually. I wanted to give her that compliment at first when she was introducing herself. Like, girl.
To talk about a versatile woman, she's already up for the challenge.
When there's money, that's me.
Absolutely love it. My next question for you, sis, is this. What are some of your reliable sources of financial literacy? I mean, you mentioned books earlier.
Yeah.
But maybe to the listener who's listening right now so that they can get some recommendations, what are some of your sources of financial literacy that you really listen to, read, watch, and the like?
A lot. Okay. I listen to a lot of Dr. Miles Monroe.
Yes.
I know he doesn't really, it's not really financial content all the time, but his principles are timeless.
That's right.
And they're also centered around God, they're Christ-centered.
Yes.
So I listen to him a lot. Like when I'm doing my deliveries during the day, there's always a Dr. Miles playing, in the background, and that has helped me a lot to just understand because some of the people that we listen to are still on the path. We listen to a lot of people our age who are still figuring things out. It's good to listen to them because they're relatable, but sometimes it's good to also listen to mentors that have shared lessons that timeless lessons. So Dr. Miles is one of those, but I also mentioned Nicolette Mashidem. Yeah, she I think she really gave birth to the entrepreneur in me. She wrote a book, What's Your Move?
Okay.
I found her so relatable, as a lady from Bushbuck Ridge, Mpumalanga. I felt if she could do it for herself, why not? And over time I've seen her brand evolve and getting into corporate, getting into a whole lot of offerings that I think today I just reference a lot when I think about my work. So I listen listen also to a lot of Nicolette Machine. But maybe just to give someone maybe 3 books that you can go to the nearest bookshop and buy. There's a book called The Psychology of Money. I love it so much. I've forgotten the author. But The Psychology of Money is really, really good. There's The Richest Man in Babylon. I also love the lessons there. What else? Let me just think about an African. Well, I've talked about Nicolette's book. What else? I also read a book called From Debt to Riches. That was back then. I don't know if it's still there. I think it's by Phumelele Ndumo. From Debt to Riches. It helped me a lot just to think about how to get out of my debt. Even though I was only 2 years in employment, I already had debt. So that's another book that I don't know if people can still find it, if they're still printing. But I also follow a lot of Witness Mdaga on Facebook. He's into property. But he's one of the champions as well. But I just think just make it a habit to learn, make learning your second nature, because if the first thing you do when you touch your phone is to check comments on a trending post or things like that, you will never get time for learning. So one of the things that I've done consistently since I got into entrepreneurship was to always listen to something that is going to grow me in some way, and just, I don't know if people know something about the algorithm, but you curate everything, like what social media shows you, what so if every time when you are scrolling you see gossip, and it means you've been interested in those things a lot, so it has helped me to just be intentional about listening to podcasts and all those things, so much that when I go into my my YouTube account, it already shows me content that will grow me automatically, because that's what I've been interested in, and over time you just you learn so much.
No, that's powerful. So you are what you eat, literally. What you consume online is who you are becoming, even gradually from your subconscious. Thank you so much, sis, for that. Definitely gonna be looking into those recommendations. Okay, my last question for you would be this. How are aspects like great marketing and networking skills so essential in one becoming financially literate? I know we've been sharing a lot on this topic of financial literacy, but maybe some people be like, okay, so it means maybe I should just read like all those books you've recommended and watch some stuff. But then how does, things like charisma, self-confidence, networking, and marketing skills really hold up this financial literacy state of a person?
I guess what we need to realize is that financial freedom is not a destination. Like, it's not a number. When people say I want to be a millionaire, and they think I would have arrived. I've already shared that I was inspired by mom a lot and all those things, So I think what we need to realize is that each and every day we are becoming, each and every day we are learning. So there is no figure that we're chasing. There's no, you need to learn until you get to a certain point where even if you lost everything, I always just look at Donald Trump and I'm like, he loses money, and then he gets it back. That's where financial literacy comes in. You're not defined by a figure, what is taught in the book, The Psychology of Money, you are grounded by principles, so much that even if you lose, you can get it back because of what you know. And then marketing and networking, I often hear people saying, like une connection, as if it's a bad thing. When people say that as if it's a bad thing.
As if it's a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing.
Come on now.
You're about, it's all about who you know, and who's going to plug you and all those things.
I think they just become so emotional about it and align it into the corruption and things like that.
But yet that's not how it is.
I'm not sure about corruption or but again, you thinking this corruption is because there's some kind of
Yeah.
entitlement again.
Yes.
And, you know,
Yes.
so I feel young people should network and should be intentional about networking. And I don't mean posting on LinkedIn. There's nothing wrong with that, but networking is literally getting out of your comfort zone to go into certain
Exactly.
spaces
Exactly.
and making yourself useful in those spaces.
That's
you know,
right.
when I started in my entrepreneurship journey, at the time I was selling clothes. I would always literally be on Facebook and turn the events notifications tab on to see what events are happening around me
Exactly,
and always
exactly.
go. I remember one time there was a breakfast meeting. I think it was at the Royal Villas or something.
Yeah.
And I paid to go there. I remember I told the other ladies we used to, you know, stock up clothes with from Joburg to say, guys, there's this breakfast meeting.
Yeah.
And they never understood me. It was, okay, so what are
Why
they
did we
doing
go
there?
there?
Yeah, I bought clothes to just go there, and there was Maggie Sylvia Mteto in that breakfast meeting, and yeah, I think it was hosted by Standard Bank. And I remember taking a picture there, and I posted it on Facebook, and I said one day I'm going to come back to this picture and remind myself that I
Yes.
deliberately went into spaces that I did not belong in,
Come on,
and
come on now.
you know, I met Maggie Sylvia Mteto, and now at that time I would be a successful business owner
Yeah,
myself.
yeah.
You know, so your mindset will open up when you go into certain spaces.
Exactly.
And when you go into those spaces, they say introduce yourself. They don't say introduce yourself based on what is in your bank account, or you know, they just say introduce yourself. And you
You.
can't just say I'm just starting out in a pod. You'll be like, I'm Lorraine the podcaster, you
Yes,
know, and that
yes.
creates something. Yeah, you'll be like you're delusional, but trust me, it creates something, you know.
It does.
And that is how I started. Unfortunately, when COVID hit those events, then you know, but after COVID, I started to be invited into these
Come
meetings
on,
now
come
as
on
a
now.
speaker
Come
because
on.
there's something that I knew. You know, so networking is very powerful. You know,
is.
it's all about who knows you. If nobody knows you, it means you just need to fight to be known. You know, so yeah, networking and then building your self-confidence. There's people that are more skilled than me, you know, that could be doing more than
educated,
me, but they don't have the confidence to put themselves out there.
Come on.
You know, yeah, you have a great idea. You know, even people in, let's just talk about artists. Maybe you're an upcoming artist. You've written a song, but you're scared to market it.
Yeah.
You know, everything lies in marketing, and these days it's easy to even market without breaking the bank because of social media. Make noise. Start your own platform, YouTube channel. You know, just
Yeah.
make noise, because no one, not even your parents, will make noise about you.
Come on.
You have to be the one who is talking about Sbusi day in, day out.
Yeah.
And that is how you'll be discovered. Otherwise, nobody just sits and thinks, oh, maybe there's a Lorraine somewhere. No.
Yeah.
For me to be here, someone recommended me because of the noise I've been making. So it's all about that. Skill is good, qualifications are good, network, and also put yourself out there, because no one will. And that is what I like a lot about the industry that I'm in. We are taught to market ourselves relentlessly. And yeah, no matter I love going to the ATM knowing very well that I've made noise about my brand. So making noise about your brand is the
Very
one thing.
essential.
Yeah, I don't care. Even if you're in corporate, if you don't talk about who you are and what you do, then no one will know you.
Ooh, I think this is something that is very crucial, you know, especially nowadays, you know, the charm that comes with putting yourself out there, you know, personality. For me, I feel like personality also sells, you
Yes,
know,
it
in a
does.
way, because you, like you said, you can be the most creative girl in the room. You can be the most brilliant girl in the room, but if you cannot stand out, if you're not confident to show yourself, you know, nobody will know. Nobody will know you have that great idea. Nobody will know you have that great potential. But you know you do have that potential. But it's just that you're just not confident enough. You're a silent brand. Somebody spoke about silent brand here. I don't know if it's Lucy or Lorraine.
Yeah,
You're-
but back trend.
yeah, you're a
Hey, you know, they're scared to be talked about.
And that's the way these days. That's the only way to go. Somebody has to speak about you,
Yeah,
so that
that's right.
somebody
That's right.
should be informed and know about you. They should know. Would say, oh, there's a Phaphilz, there's Lorraine. You know, somebody has to speak about you. Well, I think we are coming to the end of the show. You spoke about 7 years which you cannot trade for anything, which means you've been in the industry of entrepreneurship for 7 years now. In those 7 years, I think you have experienced rejection. I don't know, you didn't mention, but I am very sure if you're building something, there has to be a rejection here and there. You've experienced failure. You've also experienced success, you know. Probably you do have an advice to somebody who's sitting there and you do not have a clue. Could see what's next. What do I do with my life now? I did this teaching course, or I did this journalism course, and after finishing this course, I've realized, because okay, now this is not my space. So what's next? So any word of advice, you know, that you can give to any young person who is listening right now before we close off the show?
Okay, so I always talk to young people and say I was not born a nurse. You know, in fact, thinking about it now, I've been into entrepreneurship more than nursing. So I don't even know which, you know, I don't know if I identify more as a nurse or as an entrepreneur. But do not allow the boxes that society has created for you to stop you from pursuing, you know. I was having a conversation with my son yesterday, and I was saying, I live by Jeremiah 1 verse 5 that says, I knew you before you were formed, and I predestined you for greatness, you know. And in everything that I do, I want to bring that greatness, you know. So you just starting whatever journalism, whatever that you studied, should not confine you to that space, you know. In actual fact, you got a skill, you know. Now it's time for you to turn it into profit, which is a whole ball game, you know. So do not allow that to limit you, but again, be stubborn, you know. My mom never embraced entrepreneurship starting out, but today, if I tell you that everybody at home is an entrepreneur, because probably gave them the permission to do that. And you know, whenever I talk to her, she says, I always pray for you, pray for my kids, that their businesses flourish. Now she's no longer praying for me to see the light, to go back to employment, you know, because she has seen what I have been able to do, not just material wise, but just giving my siblings and every other Swazi girl child permission to dream big, you know. So if you are going to reinvent yourself, if you're going to pivot from what you studied, you have to be stubborn. You just have to be stubborn. 9 out of 10 times the world will be against you. 9 out of 10 times. In fact, let me just talk about VOC. VOC was not going to invite me if I had failed.
Come on.
Understand? The first failure, which is losing my job, was not significant for VOC to call me. VOC is calling me because I failed and decided to use that failure.
Even if you started the entrepreneurship journey and failed and left things like that, probably
nobody wants to be associated with the half-cooked story, you know. So the failures and the wins and everything in between, it's part of the journey of becoming. Embrace all seasons. And always trust that God has a bigger plan and a bigger purpose for your life beyond what you see. And then young people that want to really do big things, you know, life choices matter, you know, who you marry, your children, you know, you having kids and all those things. There's people that can't take the path that I've taken because they've already added a whole lot of baggage, you know. So that also helps you in life to be able to just pursue your path without having to worry about survival, because the truth is that entrepreneurship is, maybe you can call it a scam if you want, but everything is a scam, including life itself, because nobody even knows how long we're here for, you know. So if you understand that you are building something, also, you know, be realistic. You can't be bringing children and more children and more children and hoping that one day you leave all those kids and focus on entrepreneurship. Now it's and then maybe to the parents, I know of people that really want to pursue entrepreneurship but will never because of black tax. Like they have to finish their diploma and go to work because they have to go back at home and take care of mom and dad and all those things. So they'll never really pursue their dreams. You know, that is something also that I'm grateful I never really got at home, where they were like, okay, so who'll take care of us if you pursue entrepreneurship? They just allowed me to make my own choices so that, you know, I create the kind of life that I want. So I think that those are some of the things that have helped me in the 7 years. And just making sure that if you master your personal finances, you'll be able to master business finances. If you might exclude at personal level, I doubt there's any business you can build because, you know, you're always approaching money from a scarcity mindset. You're always eating everything. A customer pays you. You're about to take my hot wings. And then what business are you going to build? So making sure that you learn about personal finance helps you to build, you know, a business in the future.
Wow, dear listener, what more can you say after such wisdom has been given? Thank you so much, Busi, for sharing with us all of this wisdom that you've given. We are honored to have you in our studio, and we believe God for greater things for you, even where you are going. I mean, she is a woman of greatness. It's seen in the way you're speaking, in the way you carry yourself, how far you've come with your entrepreneurial journey. And this studio has housed a lot of big names, and you know, some people whom we have seen that after the studio, after they came here, things started even going higher and higher, you know, for them. So it's our honor to be part of your life journey, and we're wishing you all the best even in the future.
All the best, definitely. And if you're open to invites, you know, where can the listener reach out to you? Where can they contact you?
Okay. My number is very public because I'm doing business in the public space. My number is +268 76860160.
Okay.
You can get me there on WhatsApp. My email address is busiforever@gmail.com. I recently published a book. You can get it as an ebook if you're maybe a new entrepreneur in the online space, you're selling products. It's titled, If My Product Is That Good, Why Is No One Buying?
Okay.
Yeah, it just empowers you with skills on how to stand out if you're marketing products online, you know. So yeah, you can also get it. You can just maybe message me and I'll drop the link. Yeah, but you can also check my socials. I do have the link there. It helps you to just understand how people behave around, you know, marketing products online and how you can turn your fans into customers. Otherwise, I'm based in Manzini, and I am also working a lot with women, you know, and men who want to create extra income for themselves, selling a product online, you know, a health product. So if you're also looking for an opportunity to make extra income, travel the world, you know, while you are working from home, that could also be an opportunity for us to connect, you know, maybe over coffee or something. You can just let me know. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was such a great platform for me as well, to learn from other young people, but also for me to share what I have for, you know, for young people.
Most welcome. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much, dear listener, for joining us. Well, for me, Phaphilz, till we meet next time, same place, right here on VOC2 FM.
Yes.
Are we done? This thing,
Thank you for joining us on this special program. Please do follow us on all our social media pages.
On Facebook is Voice of the Church. On YouTube is Voice of the Church FM Radio Eswatini. You can also download the VOC app on any available online app stores.
Back to your favorite music.
Can you put a song?
Spinning track after track of music you love. Back to the music now.
Listening to VOC FM.
This. Making the name of the Lord great.
This is my only favorite station. Playing the best songs on the radio.
Thank you for having me. Yo, guys.
I think you're so interesting to listen to.
No, you really are. Like, I was listening, I'm like, where is she been? I didn't know about her.
Last one, when I went through her profile, like I realized because I've known her for quite some time on social media. For quite some time.
Yeah.
On social media.
I hope this will reach a lot of young people.
It will. It does, actually. Sometimes our listeners, they contact us like during the week.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we listen on that show about business, about this, about financial literacy. Yeah, because this show, I mean, this station goes in over 16 countries around the world.
Oh my goodness, that's great.
And then there's the our Facebook lives. People from Australia, Zimbabwe, so many different countries around the world.
Do you know that our business is in over 140 countries? And I can do business with people, in over 140 countries.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the power of social media.
Exactly.
Social media is big.
It is really pushed.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would love to take pictures of you in our studios
Awesome.
and with you as well.
Welcome.
Unfortunately, for now, I was going to take videos because I was loving the conversation. Like,
I don't know, Nam. I think I will just extract a few from the live because I was live on TikTok.
On TikTok.
Yeah.
On TikTok, you are Spusi.
Nah, I understand personal branding, guys. You'll never find me as
Rihanna.
Busi Rihanna. No, I'm just Busi Lukele across all platforms.
I think we've come to that, Tiagonia. It's kind of like building our brands and careers. So good in there, what's about Beyonce, like Kanjan.
Alright, please come to the side now so we take pictures.
Okay, TikTok family, bye.